doing a field test on the Hexmag. We just finished a drop test back there on the pavement. We dropped fully loaded mags and empty mags. They locked up every time in the gun, and with the touch of the mag release, they came out, no hang-ups whatsoever. Now we're going to do a cycle test to make sure they cycle without any malfunctions. Alright, bolt lock to the rear on the last round like it's supposed to. Hit the button, the mag comes out no problem. Cycled 30 rounds effortlessly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to load it a bunch more times, and we're going to keep pounding on it and see how long it'll go and cycle properly. Okay, so the next test we're going to do on this magazine is we're going to throw it off the top of this cliff fully loaded. Now I expect that when this magazine hits the ground, all the rounds are going to come out of it. Most mags will do that. But we're going to reload it then and see how well it holds up. Alright? Okay, you can stop it there. You ready? Okay, we just threw that magazine off the top of that cliff fully loaded, and now we're going to recover it and see what it looks like. Well, something broke in it. Something broke because there's no spring tension and the ammunition's just falling out of it. So we'll take it back to the tailgate and we'll tear it apart and take a look at it. Alright, so we tore the magazine apart and nothing appears to be broke. It just appears that the follower hung up when it was compressed on the spring, and looks like it's going to go back together no problem. I did count all the rounds though. On impact we must have lost a round somewhere, so it maintained 29 rounds of ammunition out of the 30. That's pretty impressive, because most of the magazines that I've tested, whenever they hit the ground, all the ammunition comes flying out of the top. So we're going to put it back together, reload it with 30 rounds of ammunition, and then we're going to run it and see what happens. Tell me when you're ready. Alright, when I was reloading the magazine, I noticed that a couple of the rounds are smashed on the sides. So what happened was, when that magazine landed, it landed with enough force that it dented some of the casings. So we put it back together, we loaded it with 30 rounds of ammunition. Now we're going to run it and see what happens. way it's supposed to. Bolt lock to the rear on the last round. Drops out of the magazine, no problem. So I'm impressed so far. Okay, when I've seen this demonstration done in the past from other magazine companies, they seem to always do it with a fully loaded magazine, which means that magazine well is completely full of ammunition, so there's no flex or anything in it. This is an empty magazine. What we're going to do is we're going to drive over it with this 2500 HD and see if it still works. Let me know when I'm completely right on top of it.
Stop.
Alright, so we took the magazine that we drove over top of and we reloaded it with 30 rounds of ammunition. I will say that follower was really snug in there, so I'm not sure how this is going to cycle or what's going to happen. Alright, the bolt did not lock to the rear on that last round, which for the amount of punishment that I've given this magazine doesn't surprise me. It did cycle fine and fed all the rounds out through the feed lips with no problem, but there's enough deformation in it that it wouldn't come out of the mag well without me pulling it. So we got one more test and we'll see what happens. Alright, so this next test, what we're going to do is we're going to shoot the mag. We're going to damage it. And then we're going to reload it with 30 rounds and see how it functions. Magnet. Now, most of the time when people do this test, they'll shoot it once. We do things a little different here. All right, we shot it 3 times. What we're going to do is we're going to take it back and we're going to tear it apart first and look at the inside. All right, the follower spring's twisted, which is probably leading to the drag on the follower inside the magazine well. But we didn't really accomplish the goal that we wanted here, so we're going to do something different here. Okay, so we had a twist in the follower spring that was causing some drag and a crack in the follower. Well, we also tried to use a couple improvised means of breaking this spring. All it did was dent it and bend it a little bit. The follower springs seem to be indestructible. So we're going to put it back together and we're going to try it out and see what happens. Alright, we loaded this magazine to its capacity. You can see down inside of the gunshot holes the brass from the live ammunition. Now we're going to try it out and see how it functions. Alright, that was our first malfunction. It was a failure to feed. Magazine's still locking up nice. Again, failure to feed. Alright, so what's happening is the ammunition's not feeding up into the feed ramp. And I'm not sure if it's because we've altered the tilt of the magazine in the mag well or what the problem is, but for the most part this magazine here's pretty much had it. So I want to thank Hexmag for sending us the mags to use and abuse in this test. We're going to do some service testing with them also, where we're going to put them in service and just use them over the course of a year and see what happens there. But the mag that we endurance tested held up extremely well. It's my opinion that no magazine will ever see this much abuse, ever. And it performed extremely well. So, thank you very much.